Hey y'all, good morning. Well, it is a nice and stormy morning here, but it's going to be for like the next several days. So it's just going to be thunder in the background no matter when I film. So we're going to do it now and just, hopefully you enjoy the ambiance. We are doing, though, our anticipated releases for the third quarter of 2023. So that's books from July through September. And I will admit that there are definitely more, probably July, whereas September and August kind of have more honorably mentions. Ones that you guys will probably be more excited about because they're sequels and stuff, but I haven't actually read the first book. So while I'm intrigued and kind of want to read them, I still have to actually start the series. But that's enough babbling from me, and hopefully this video will not turn out to be super long, though probably they're always kind of long with these because there are so many to talk about. There will be timestamps per month and probably also per honorable mention section if you just want to look into what the sequels coming out in that month are. Hopefully, though, you enjoyed this video. I'm Morgan. Thank you for clicking on it, and if you enjoy this type of content, subscribe and join us for future videos. Okay, we are going to be starting in July, and I think that the dump truck has gotten further away and will not be interrupting now. The first one comes out on July 1st, and this is a thriller called Doomsday Match by Jeff Wheeler. And it does sound interesting. I got it in my Prime first picks release for June, though I'm not going to be able to read it this month, but I have it. It's a vacationing family becomes pawns in an ancient ritual designed to bring about the apocalypse in a riveting thriller on blah, 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 blah. A prophecy has waited for 5 centuries to be fulfilled. The time has come. Sacrifices will be made. Let the games begin. When Jonathan Roth and his family are invited by their neighbors, the Beasleys, to join them in a luxury retreat in Cozumel, who can refuse? It's the perfect winter getaway, relaxing on the beach, gourmet food, sightseeing, and free accommodations. But if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Villa Sara de Calcomel, owned by mysterious tycoon Jacob Calcomel, is more isolated compound than private resort. Armed guards patrol the jungle perimeters. Pictures of previous guests, long disappeared, adorn the walls, and there are whispers of something coming called the game. Even in the sweltering heat, the Roths feel a chill, and the fear that they haven't been invited to Villa Sara, they've been lured. But for what purpose and to what end? From the ruins, a death cult is reborn. Prophecy to bring down the Western civilization is being realized as a legendary blood sport is engaged. The Roths themselves may need to call upon ancient powers if they're to survive, escape, and save the world from annihilation. I can speak, I promise. If this is your first time watching me, I'm so sorry, but names and some words will be butchered and stumbled. But yeah, I can read. I can speak. Our next releases are for July 11th, and the first of which was the May Fairyloot adult book for May. I already said May. It's fantasy romance The Curse of Saints by Kate Dramas. Both covers, like their edition and the regular print edition, both covers really cool. And this I will be checking out soon. It's an elite spy and the Queen's third in command. Aya has dedicated herself to a life of discipline and duty, using her gods-given abilities to keep dark magic from ever returning to the realm. Her oath ensures she will always act to protect those she fights alongside, including Will, the Queen's enforcer and Aya's bitter rival. Forced by circumstance to work together, Aya and Will struggle to come to an uneasy truce. But when tragedy strikes, Aya instinctively reacts, unleashing a power that hasn't been seen in over 500 years. Shaken, she's confronted with an impossible truth, one that threatens the precious grip she keeps on her control, one that forces her to work with real Will to discover who or what she really is, and one that could turn her into a weapon in a war that she doesn't know how to win. And this next one is also a fantasy, as most of us. Thief, Liar, Lady by D.L. Soria. This one sounds so interesting. It's also kind of a retelling. So, yeah. I'm not who you think I am. My transformation from a poor orphan scullery maid into an enchantingly mysterious lady who snagged the heart of the prince did not happen, as rumors insisted, in a magical metamorphosis of pumpkins and glass sippers. On the first evening of the ball, I didn't meekly help my evil stepmother and stepsisters primp and preen or watch forlornly out the window as their carriage rolled off toward the palace. I had other preparations to make. My stepsisters and I had been trained for this, to be the cleverest in the room, to be quick with our hands and quicker with our lies. We were taught how to get everything we wanted in this world, everything men always kept for themselves: power, wealth, prestige. And with a touchingly tragic past and the help of some highly illegal spells, I would become a princess, secure our fortunes, and we would all live happily ever after. But there's always more to this story. With my magic running out, war looming, and a handsome hostage prince, the wrong prince, distracting me from my true purpose with his magnetic charm and forbidden flirtations, I'm in danger of losing control of the delicate balance I've created, and that could prove fatal. There's so much more writing on this than a crown. So he's a Cinderella retelling, but I have some hopes for this one because it sounds like it might be a different twist and it might have some humor. I don't know. High hopes. Yeah, I should probably temper my hopes. I don't know. Our next one is July 18th, and this is the Yassid Heir by Sarah Hassaram. 10 years ago, the kingdom of Yassid burned. Its magic was outlawed, the royal family murdered. At least that's what Sylvia wants people to believe. The heir of Yassid escaped the massacre, and she intends to stay hidden, especially from the armies of Nazil that continue to hunt her people. But a moment of anger changes everything when Aaron, the Nazil heir, tracks a group of Jassadi rebels to her village. Sylvia accidentally reveals her magic and captures his attention. Now Sylvia is forced to make a deal with her greatest enemy, help him hunt the rebels in exchange for her life. A deadly game begins. Sylvia can't let Aaron discover her identity, even as hatred shifts into something more between the heirs. And as the tides change around her, Sylvia will have to choose between the life she wants and the one she abandoned. The Scorched Kingdom is rising, and it needs a queen. So this is the first in a series. I'm not sure how long the series will be. Like trilogy, but it's the first. As I said earlier for Fairy Loot Adult May, this one is the Fairy Loot Adult June, I think. Or is it July? I think it's June. This is Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. I love their cover design. I like the original cover design too, but theirs is very, very pretty. Every year, thousands in the kingdom of Talon will flock to the capital twin cities, Sen-Ir, where the palace hosts a set of games for those confident enough in their ability to jump between bodies. Competitors from across Sen-Ir fight to the death to win unimaginable riches. Princess Kala Tulimi lurks in hiding. 5 years ago, a massacre killed her parents and left the palace of Ur empty. And she was the one who did it. Before King Kassa's forces in San can catch her, she plans to finish the job and bring down the monarchy. Her reclusive uncle always greets the victor of the games, so if she wins, she gets her opportunity at last to kill him. Enter Anton Makusa, an exiled aristocrat. His childhood love has lain in a coma since they were both ousted from the palace, and he's deep in debt trying to keep her alive. Thankfully, he's one of the best jumpers in the kingdom, flitting from body to body at will. His last chance at saving her is entering the games and winning. Kala finds both an unexpected alliance with Anton and help from King Kassa's adopted son, August, who wants to mend Tala's ills. But the three of them have very different goals, even as Kala and Anton's partnership spirals into something all-consuming. Before the games close, Kala must decide what she's playing for, her love or her kingdom. I hope I did not butcher that description with the names and fumbles as much. And also, the last one for the 18th is After Death by Dean Koontz. This is a sci-fi suspense. Michael Mace, head of security at a top-secret research facility, opens his eyes in a makeshift morgue 24 hours following an event in which everyone perished, including him and his best friend, Shelby Shrewsbury. Having awakened with an extraordinary ability unlike anything he or anyone else has ever imagined, Michael is capable of being as elusive as a ghost. He sets out to honor his late friend by helping Nina Dozier and her son John, whom Shelby greatly admired. Although what Michael does for Nina is life-changing, his actions also evoke the wrath of John's father, a member of one of the most violent street gangs in Los Angeles. But an even greater threat is descending. The Internal Security Agency's most vicious assassin, Duran Califras. Califras will stop at nothing to get his man. If Michael dies twice, he will not live a third time. From the tarnished glamour of Beverly Hills to the streets of South Central to a walled estate in Rancho Santa Fe, Only Michael can protect Nina and John and ensure that light survives in a rapidly darkening world. It's got a lot of aspects. It also has some odd things that I'm not sure about, but it's got a lot of aspects that sound intriguing. And for July 25th, we have the fantasy The Sun in the Void by Gabriela Romero Lacruz. This is supposed to be the first in the Warring Gods series. Rena is desperate. Stuck on the edges of society, Rena's only hope lies in an invitation from a grandmother she's never met. But the journey to her is dangerous, and prayer can't always avert disaster. Attacked by creatures that stalk the mountains, Rena is on the verge of death until her grandmother, a dark sorceress, intervenes. Now dependent on Donna's magic for her life, Rena will do anything to earn and keep her favor, even the binding of an ancient god who whispers to her at night. Eva Casara is unwanted. Illegitimate and of mixed heritage, Eva is her family's shame. She tries to be the perfect daughter, but Eva is hiding a secret. Magic calls to her. Eva knows she should fight the temptation. Magic is the sign of the dark god, and using it is punishable by death. Yet it's hard to ignore power when it has always been denied to you. Eva is walking a dangerous path, and in the end, she'll become something she never imagined. It's inspired by South American folklore of colonial times. Another one on the 25th is the sci-fi Emergent Properties by Amy Ogden. This one follows an AI reporter, so it's going to be different. State-of-the-art AI with a talent for asking questions and finding answers, Scorn is nevertheless a parental disappointment. Defying the expectations of their human mothers, CEOs of the world's most powerful corporations, Scorn has made a life of their own as an investigative reporter, crisscrossing the globe in pursuit of the truth no matter the danger. In the middle of investigating the story of the moon, Scorn comes back online to discover Z has no memory of the past 10 days, and no idea what story Z was even chasing. Letting it go is not an option, not if Z wants to prove herself. Scorn must retrace their steps in a harrowing journey to uncover an even more explosive truth than Z could have ever imagined. I have not read anything from an AI perspective in a very long time, so I want to, and I want it to work good. And now the honorable mentions for July. The first one being on the 11th is The Traitor by Anthony Ryan. This is the third book in the Covenant of Steel series that starts with Pariah. They are all following this outlaw called Scribe? Something Scribe? Alwyn Scribe, who grew up and was raised an outlaw in the woods until an act causes him to seek vengeance and joins the king's army. And he's fighting under this noble woman who gets visions of a demonic apocalypse. And so through fighting through wars and politicalness, he has to decide whether or not he's going to, keep seeking his vengeance or with the army or be an outlaw. So this is the third book. Honorable mention because I've never read the series at all. Then on the 18th, another fantasy is coming out. It is Blade of Dreams by Daniel Abrams. This is the second in the Kithamar saga trilogy. Man, I don't remember. This one we do seem to be following a different character, so it might not be necessarily connected, like we have to read them in order, but it is continuing on, so I'm sure the events of the first book will play out in this one. This one, though, you are in this large city and it is full of political intrigue. Our main character in the last one was like a street urchin, though you were seeing from this perspectives of the people of the palace. This one you were following, it's not quite a street urchin, but someone of like a middle merchanty class as he's like trying to fight for love, I believe. I don't know. But in the city of Kithamar, nothing is quite as it seems. The city itself is actually a character within the books and alive, and magic is odd. This is very, very atmospheric book series, and yeah, I will not be continuing this one, but for those of you who like the first one, this one's coming out. And one that probably nobody needs an introduction really to, coming out on the 25th, is a sci-fi Lightbringer by Pierce Brown, continuing on the Red Rising saga. Unfortunately, I still can't read this one because I only read the first book. And I need to continue the series so I can get to this one. This one, of course, is following Darrow from the first book, Red Rising, as he is a red, and reds are this working class people who are miners, and they work underneath the surface of Mars to mine helium-3 to be able to terraform the surface of Mars and other planets so humanity can expand. And after Darrow's wife pretty much becomes a martyr to open his eyes, he is recruited by this rebel faction, and they show him the truth that their people have been slaves for generations because Mars is a thriving metropolis. And so he becomes this weapon of vengeance, pretty much. He dedicates himself to bringing down society, the Golds, to bringing justice. And yeah, it's different. It was cool. I liked it. It's got some Hunger Games vibes, especially in the first book, because they do have to go through this school and training thing. And yeah, it gets brutal. It does get brutal sometimes. We will move into August now, and there is kind of more in the honorary mention category, because while I want to, like I said, I haven't read the first ones, then regularly. So yeah, or some things got pushed back. August might have to be amended at a later point in time. And September probably really has to be amended. But man, don't get caught up in it. Okay, the first one though does come out on the 22nd. So the first one on the list is not till the 22nd. But I am so excited and ready to read this one. This is The Midnight Kingdom by Tara Sim. It's adult fantasy. It is the sequel to The City of Dusk. And oh my goodness, I love this. In The City of Dusk, you are seeing from 5 perspectives, as 4 of them are the heirs to the families of the gods' descendants in this city, because the city used to be ruled over by different gods, and now their descendants are the ruling families of the different sections, and they all control a different type of magic. And the heirs to the families are all like young 20s or something, and being raised to be the heirs, and they're not supposed to interact or like each other or anything like that. But they've all kind of interacted a little bit since they were children. Like 2 of them are best friends. 2 of them are romantically entangled. One of them thinks she's better than everybody. So, she also does not have good control over her power. But at this point in time, the city has been suffering. The city is dying because the gods have been gone. And when the gods left, portals to other planes that were some of the people's homeworlds got closed. And when this got closed, people were stuck on this side, and they're stuck in the City of Dusk, and there's prejudice, and they are discriminated against just because of how they are, what type of people they are, and it's just very bad society for some of them. Enter the heirs, some of them are determined to save their city, save this with or without the gods' help. And it's just so much. It descends into very darkness, and somebody like completely going into crazy town trying to save her brother and her city. It just, yeah, so much. I really liked it. I really liked it. And I cannot wait to read the next book because of the events that happened right at the end of the first book. Oh my gosh. And if you remember, I said there were 5 and there are 4 heirs. The other one, you don't really know who it is until later in the book, but you do keep seeing chapters from them. And you feel for this person, like you feel for them a lot, or at least I did. This is rather a horrible description of the book, but it was really good. I so think everybody should read it because it's very underrated. A lot of people, I don't think, noticed it when it first came out. But yes, it was awesome. And another sequel. August could also be considered the month of sequels. Yes, because on the 29th, the YA fantasy Lightstruck by Sunya Mara comes out. And this is the second and conclusion, because it's just going to be a duology. This is the conclusion, though, to The Darkening that came out last year. This one's magic system is really cool. It's called Iconomancy, and it works by writing. So what you write is how it's magically formed. In this one, though, there's a city. Like, it all takes place within this city that's trapped within the eye of a storm. It is a magical storm, and it has slowly been encroaching upon the city closer and closer for generations. And the ruling family of this city is getting weaker and weaker, and the person having to take over is earlier and earlier in life. But that's not our main character, though. Our main character is the daughter of revolutionaries who did not agree with the injustices of the magic system and the separation of how things are done in the city, and they tried to take over, and they failed. And so they've kind of kept her mother was banished, or chose to be banished, into the storm. And her father has kept her existence a secret and lived in like the very outskirts of the city where the people called Storm-Touched are, and poor. But unfortunately, she does a magic, and she doesn't know how to really do the magic, but she does one that's very special that her father actually created. He is discovered and taken by the Palisi people, including the prince. And she is determined to get her father back, though, so she infiltrates them, and she meets the prince and his inner circle and finds out that they are trying to find a way to break the storm, to defeat the storm. And they're using scraps of stuff. They want to use her father's, like they have been studying everything they could find of the thing, the Iconomancer her father specifically created. And so she works her way in with them without really telling them who she is, and trying to, you know, be like, I can figure it out. I'm going to help. It was really cool. I loved the magic system and how different it was, and the hidden history behind it, because that's one of the things I love so much. So I'm really looking forward to this one coming out. So looking forward to it. And this is a duology, so that means it'll hopefully wrap up good and be a short series and be like, yes, I'm happy with this. That's enough of me babbling though about that. Also on the 29th though is a fantasy romance kind of, but it's different-y sounding. I don't know. It's described as Once Upon a Time meets The Office. It's Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Mahir. Apparently is a TikTok thing that she turned into a novel. Never heard of it though, so who knows. Assistant wanted. Notorious high-ranking villain seeks loyal, level-headed assistant for unspecified office duties. Supporting staff for random mayhem, terror, and other dark things in general. Discretion is a must. Excellent benefits. With ailing family to support, Evie Sage's employment status isn't just important, it's vital. So when a mishap with Redon's most infamous villain results in a job offer, naturally she says yes. No job is perfect, of course, but even less so when you develop a teeny crush on your terrifying, temperamental, and undeniably hot boss. Don't find evil so attractive, Evie. But just when she's getting used to severed heads suspended from the ceiling and odd squish of an errant eyeball beneath her heel, Evie suspects the dungeon has a huge rat, and not just the literal kind. Because something's rotten growing in the kingdom of Redon, and someone wants to take the villain and his entire nefarious empire out. Now Evie must not only resist the drooling over her boss, but also figure out exactly who is sabotaging his work, and ensure he makes them pay. After all, a good job is hard to find. So it sounds kind of cute. It's the bad guy, I guess, but it sounds kind of cute. And our next YA fantasy, also coming out on the 29th, is Her Radiant Curse by Elizabeth Lim. I think this might be, it's either a standalone or going to be a duology. One sister must fall for the other to rise. Shawnee was not born a monster, but when her own father offers her in sacrifice to the demon witch, she is forever changed. Cursed with a serpent's face, Shawnee is the exact opposite of her beautiful sister Vanna, the only person in the village who looks at Shawnee and doesn't see a monster, the only person she loves and trusts. Now 17, Vanna is to be married off in a vulgar contest that will enrich the coffers of the village leaders. Only Shawnee, who's had to rely on her strength and cunning all these years, can defend her sister against the cruelest of the suitors. But in doing so, she becomes the target of his wrath, launching a grisly battle royale, a quest over the land and sea, and a romance between sworn enemies, and a choice that will strain Shawnee's heart to its breaking point. For the honorable mentions of August, there's one for the 22nd. Maybe that goes with that one. Something is out of order. But on the 22nd, we have He Who Drowned the World is the second in the Radiant Empire duology. So another conclusion of the duology wrapping up. This is this sequel to She Who Became the Sun. Yes, which is based of Chinese fantasy historical. Then we have the YA fantasy that everybody will probably love, Foxglove by Adeline Grace, which is the sequel to Belladonna, as you are still following what's her name and death, but also fate is becoming entwined in a character here. It was okay. In this one, Signa has been followed around by death her whole life, and everybody around her always dies, and so she wants to confront death as she is at her last living relative's house to prevent her cousin from dying. And things ensue. Did not care for this one, but everybody loved it, so You know Foxglove is now coming out on the 22nd. And lastly, the YA fantasy coming out August 29th is Never a Hero by Vanessa Lynn. This is the sequel to Only a Monster. I'm not sure if this is a duology. I'm not sure. In Only a Monster, our main character is Joan, and she's finding out that her family is monsters, and then there's going to be a romance with the cute boy who's apparently a famous monster hunter. And something goes wrong, and I think she has to be the one to save people. I really want to read this one. I have not gotten around to it, but I really want to. And then the sequel is coming out, so I need to. As I said, August was smaller. Most of my books are in July. I think I should probably do this later into the thing, like a revised anticipated releases. I don't know. But for September, it's kind of almost the same. The first one is going to be on September 19th. It's a fantasy called The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Brianne Randall. When I first read that, I read Brianna Randall, like Outlander, and I was like, oh, no. Sadie Reveler has always believed that the curse of 4 heartbreaks that accompanies her magic would be worth the price. But when her grandmother is diagnosed with cancer with only weeks to live and her first heartbreak, Jake McNeely, returns to town after a decade, her carefully structured life begins to unravel. When the news of their grandmother's impending death, Sadie's estranged twin brother, Seth, returns to town, bringing with him a deeply buried family secret that threatened to tear Sadie's world apart. The grandmother has been the backbone of the family for generations, and with her death, Sadie isn't sure she'll have the strength to keep the family or her magic together. As feelings for Jake begin to rekindle and her grandmother growing sicker by the day, Sadie faces the last of her heartbreaks, and she has to decide, is love more important than magic? So, maybe a cozy read. It sounds like probably a cozy read. Next, we have Starter Villains by John Scalzi. It's a sci-fi, also on the 19th. I'm so excited for this one. And look at this cover. Look at the cover. Oh my gosh, I love the cat. I do. Inheriting your uncle's supervillain business is more complicated than you might think, particularly when you discover who's running the place. Charlie's life is going nowhere fast. A divorced substitute teacher living with his cat in a house his siblings want to sell. All he wants to do is open a pub downtown, if only the bank will approve his loan. Then his long-lost Uncle Jake dies and leaves his supervillain business, complete with island volcano lair, to Charlie. But becoming a supervillain isn't all giant laser death rays and lava pits. Jake has enemies, and now they're coming after Charlie. His uncle might have been a stand-up, old-fashioned kind of villain, but these are the real thing. Rich, soulless predators backed by multinational corporations, venture capital. It's up to Charlie to win the war his uncle started against a league of supervillains. But with unionized dolphins, hyper-intelligent talking spy cats, and a terrifying hench person at his side, going bad is starting to look pretty good. In a dog-eat-dog world, be a cat. I love it. Love it. And yeah, now we are already into the honorable mentions for September. There's a lot. There's a lot more honorable mentions in September because they all sound good, but they're all in things that I have not started. And I hope that you guys have, so that you will agree that these are worth it. The first is going to be September 5th, Holly by Stephen King, thriller suspense. I think this is a standalone, but this is following Holly Gibney, which you first saw in Mr. Mercedes as a child, and then you see her again in later novels. But this is her as the main central character doing the work. It does sound interesting, but I haven't read where this character comes from. Then on September 12th, we have the fantasy Chasm by Stacey McCurran. Is the book 3? No. Book 2 in the Glacian trilogy. I shouldn't have put a 3 there. This one comes after Ledge, in which humanity is living pretty much on the ledge of a mountain, almost at the end of our ropes. There's not supposed to be any hope of survival to get past this little civilization, but someone does escape. And and finds out things. And now we are here into her next one, where it's something about she starts in a dungeon. I started to read the description and I really shouldn't have. I should read the other one first, but the covers are cool. And then this one I am very confused by. But on September 26th, the sci-fi The Fractured Dark by Megan O'Caffey comes out, and that's book 2 in the Devoured Worlds. Book 1 just came out at the beginning of June, or end of May. Now, I mean, I get that there are authors that do pop them out really quick, but still. Sequel books. I figure it would take longer. I don't know. And then, September 26th, we have middle grade fantasy, The Chalice of the Gods by Rick Riordan, where he is returning and writing book 6 in the Percy Jackson series. In this one, Percy is trying to get his recommendation letters to college, but apparently he needs recommendation letters from Mount Olympus. And so he has to go on quests to be able to do this. So we're finally returning to the world of Percy Jackson. After this will be another one that I think a lot of people will be looking forward to. On the 26th of fantasy, The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab is coming out. This is returning into the Shades of Magic world, but it is a new series within that world. I didn't do the description for it because I'm not sure how much it would give away for the Shades of Magic series, which starts out A Darker Shade of Magic, I believe is the first book, where in this one there is different versions of London. Like there's different worlds all connected through London, as there's Red London and White London, Grey London. I don't know as much, but I know that some of these have magic and some do not. And things got weird in that series, and now here we are in this one. It's got of old heroes and new enemies, a welcome return to the dazzling world of thieves, travelers, magical battles, and epic adventures. So I think a lot of people will be looking forward to this one. Okay, everything else is going to be also on the 26th, and the next one is YA Fantasy, The Scarlet Veil by Shelby Mahurin. This is returning to the world of Serpent and Dove, and I think we're still following the same characters. After the events of the first 3 books, as things are happening and she is trying to put her life back together. In the first book, though, we follow a witch and a witch hunter as they have come across each other in unfortunate events and they become engaged. And love starts to happen even as they're lying, and she's running from the witches, though. She's running from the witches. I read the first one. It wasn't awesome for me, though, so that's why I didn't continue. I don't know. Maybe it will. I don't know. And the last one is Foul Heart Huntsman by Chloe Gong, and this is the sequel to Foul Lady Fortune. It's also a duology, so this is the conclusion to that series. This is the second Chloe Gong book on this one, but the other one was a different series entirely, though, so there's that. As I said, though, maybe we're going to have to update this at some point, because that was a lot of just honorable mentions instead of for sure books. And a lot of the ones that I did have saved for September, going back and looking at them again, their release dates have been pushed back a little bit. So it's like, oh, never mind, delete you from the list. And delete you from the list. But I hope that you have found out something that you would like to go pick up, new, or one of the sequel books, conclusion-y books that are coming out. I just hope you enjoyed this list and have a new book to go get. I have several now. I have several that I need to read now. But I'm excited. I'm very excited for the next few months and getting these read. I really do hope that you enjoyed this video and found something intriguing that you want to add to your list, and maybe you'll subscribe and come back for future ones like the new releases videos that I do every week. So if a book did not make it into this anticipated releases or the release date changes, it'll be in our weekly new releases and you can find out when it's coming out that specific week. I really enjoy this series because I get to find out specifically when things are coming out, and ones that I didn't have on my anticipated releases, I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I know about this? So yes, I've really been enjoying doing that video series, and I hope you guys will check it out and subscribe if you're liking my content, and hopefully come back for the next one. Thank you guys for being here. Hope you're finding something awesome to read today, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.